Hey man, how's it going?
Oh, not too bad. I got like a half a dozen of my favorite donuts today. Of course,
Fantastic.
I shared two with my dad and one with my mom, so I only have three for myself. So I'm a
Never
little
share.
sad.
Never share desserts. Never do it because it's not worth it. Always have them for yourself. Don't share them. I tell that to
I'll get some
everybody.
more. I'll get some more. I think on Thursday, so it's not a big deal.
Sure, sure. But yeah, welcome back everybody to Bite My Shiny Metal Cast, episode 70, or episode, I should say 15 of season 5, episode 71 for us.
Yeah,
Bender should not be
71.
allowed on TV. Yeah, crazy.
Mind you, that's not including our other like shorthand reviews for the Hulu
Yeah, no,
runs.
the of
So
our review
yeah,
podcast, right? The review show that we do for the original run that we have been doing for the original run. And yeah, please like and subscribe if you like talking all things Futurama, and don't forget to comment. Yeah, let's jump right into it. I think I'm gonna say that this episode is better than I remember because there's a lot of funny things in it that kind of they're dated, but they kind of date like to the episode in itself. And you and I were just talking about this off mic, right? The idea is like on actual television, what were the circumstances with like what kids could watch and like who's allowed to see whatever, right? So it was kind of an
oh
interesting
yeah,
situation with like parents and how they thought like Futurama or Simpsons or whatever are too violent or
which we kind of see a little bit of this with this episode. What should be allowed on TV, what shouldn't be allowed on TV.
yeah, yeah,
Things probably have changed since then. There's a lot of stuff on TV that I've seen nowadays. I was like, how'd that get past the censors? So,
yeah. Well,
and
if you could,
either it's because people fought for it, which is like, why would you fight for that particular thing?
yeah,
Because some of them were a little lewd, so to speak. But
yeah.
like general violence, I think is a little more accepted nowadays than it used to be.
I think it also has to be with like what's an allusion to this particular type of thing, right? Because we can see like a lot of kids shows, like SpongeBob has allusions to like drugs, but it's not drugs as in like cocaine or
No, no,
heroin. It's like
or alcohol.
or
You had
alcohol, but
one too
they're
many milkshakes, so
right
to speak.
exactly. Like there's just like and all these little kids shows, they all have like something similar to doing that, right?
Yeah.
But any case, yeah, this is a very interesting episode. So let's go through it here, and then we'll discuss it more. So our opening caption: controlling you through a chip in your butt since 1999. And
The
they
movie.
were. They absolutely were. And this is another one of those intros. I think we just had an intro with this, with like a different one. They must have just putting them out as they were closing in on their series or whatever. But it's the
Well,
beatboxing one. Beatboxing
production
for the
number.
intro.
Like, what
Yeah.
what do we know about production number for this one?
Well, I think this
I
one
don't.
was this one
This isn't the
was
fourth season. This
the
isn't the
fourth
fourth
season. This was
season.
much
Yeah.
earlier, right? It was supposed to, yeah, but it came out on like the second last episode of
Yeah.
the series,
August
right?
3rd, 2003.
Isn't that funny? So, in any case, we have a beatboxing intro, and I think it was pretty funny. Now,
I, yeah, I like it. Like, it's just one of those ones that you just like. Hey, this is popping or whatever the term
yeah,
the kids use these days.
Zoidberg,
Zoidberg.
Futurama, y'all, yeah, stuff like that. It's pretty funny. So, here we go. We open up on All My Circuits. All right. And it's basically about an episode where most of the characters, if not all the characters, are suffering from amnesia, because amnesia is also another big thing. I can't believe we're actually two Bender episodes, and
This
or
is the third
two of the
one.
three, right, are to deal with Calculon.
Yeah, you know what? I
Kind of a
guess
funny thing, right? Because
the
they're
writers are
also
pretty racist against robots, and they just kind of like, oh, we'll just group them together. Why not? No one cares. No one likes them.
well, it's also the production of this episode was way before, right? Because we just
Hmm.
established this was like a year. It was supposed to
Right.
come out like a year prior, but any case, another Calculon centric episode as well to an extent. But yes, everybody's in in the episode of All My Circuits happens to be suffering from some form of amnesia, and they're going through all these little hijinks that these what is this type of show, soap opera shows type of tend to do,
Drama.
and
Over the top drama. You
exactly,
slept with
yeah.
my sister's best friend's sister's aunt
But I
in
don't remember
Egypt.
because I have amnesia. Right,
Yeah.
right. And then you're like, oh, okay, but you're going to suffer from amnesia. Does anybody here not have amnesia? I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I
just,
might. I think I forgot though.
so, it's one of those things. But any case, it's the crew who happen to be watching the show, of course. And who are they watching it with? Hubert and Dwight, right? The kids, they actually kind of show
Yep.
up here for this episode, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so we get Kath Suchi and Bumper Robinson back as
Robertson
their
back, yep, as their characters.
As their
Hubert
characters.
and
Yeah.
Dwight, respectively. Yep.
Yeah.
And as they are 12 years old, right, they're easily impressed by
Around that
TV
age. Yeah.
shows and all these kinds of things. So they want to be cool, like their hero Calculon, despite the fact that they're watching a soap opera. They can't watch anything cooler than that. But
Were you ever
whatever.
influenced by something you saw on TV?
Oh, I've always
mind
been
you,
sure,
I know,
sure,
but
but
the
I never
thing
did
is,
anything. No.
if you ever saw someone do like a cool skateboard trick, would you like, oh, I want to learn how to skateboard
Oh,
or something like that? Were you ever kind
um,
of influenced that way? I
no,
don't.
not
I
really.
can't recall something like that. Like
Yeah.
being Canadian, growing up in between commercials, at least Saturday cartoons, we
Mhm.
had those stupid like the house hippo, or don't
Yeah.
always believe everything on TV, or like
Yeah, the
cooties aren't actually
concerned
spread by
children's
kids.
advertisers. Yeah, 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 that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
They're
and
really good, yeah. Yeah.
I like to think that we were smarter than that, but I'm pretty sure that did help some kids out and stuff like that, right?
In
And
Sorry,
in
just to
theory.
interrupt you there for a second,
Oh yes,
and
please.
as a side thing, well, because you're talking about those old commercials, and yes, they were very, very much a Canadian thing. I think it was Billy West who didn't he voice the television? Who was like, "Hey, what you watching? Me? I'm just a TV." I'm pretty sure that's Billy West,
Maybe.
and he's like,
You
"Oh,
know, at the time, it was any voice actors, but I'm pretty sure because that was Canadian stuff, they would have used a Canadian one. So I'm
maybe."
not saying you're wrong, but
Yeah, I
we'd
remember
have
him.
to research this
I remember
in
his
order to look.
voice being very familiar. I'm wondering if that was Billy West. But
Oh, dude,
any case,
it could have been any of the
yeah,
anime that we watched that was dubbed in Canada. It could have been that guy. So
that's
more
true.
than
That's true.
likely, it was someone from our childhood. We just don't know.
Yes, that's very true. And also with our episode, it tends to be that it's Calculon's birthday. Okay, in the episode. So whether or not it's his actual birthday, I'm not sure. But in any case, this leads to Cubert, saying he also wants a birthday, and Dwight kind of calling him out, saying like, "Well, you're a clone. Why would you have a birthday?" And Cubert then says, "Oh, you're right. Like I have to figure this out." So he and Dwight decide to go and talk with Professor, and he and Hermes, Professor and Hermes, I don't know what they're doing. They're playing with like some animal eating, like what are those things from the What If machine? Like with those
Man eating
ant
anteaters.
anteaters or whatever. So it sounded
Yeah,
like
but
those things, but I have
those
no idea.
no, because those were more like a I
Oh,
can't do the thing, but these ones are more like like there was growling versus
right,
kind of like anteaters don't really growl; they
growl,
kind of just slurp a little
right.
bit.
So they have some other random animal that's in the box. We never see it. It's just a random
Yeah,
gag, so
almost as
it's okay.
convincing as those ape bones that I found for the professor. Like he
That's pretty
obviously
good.
experiments with a whole bunch of animals,
Everything, yeah.
and we have a few examples. There's I think in the movie coming up, or the second movie,
Mhm.
he has a giant ant and saying like, "How is promised sugar water?" And like, see what
Oh,
happens when
that's
we throw
right.
the ant into the thing here,
Right.
and stuff like that. And also he had
Yep.
Gunther, you
Well, you also
know,
had Gunter the monkey, and Azuzu the
Pazuzu, yeah,
gargoyle. But he
yeah.
also remember when this is also in the movie when this is the Beast with a Billion Backs, and they realize that metal and technology doesn't go through it, but live creatures do, and they have like
Right,
that
he threw a
barrel of.
koala. through
So
the
it's he has tons of these animals, man. They're all over the place. Actually, I guess those were maybe Wernstrom's, but that was still pretty funny.
Either way, he experiments with animals a lot.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's pretty good.
isn't that a fun thing that we just kind of realized right now? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he does. Also, in that one episode with the robots taking over thing, he made like controlled Yetis that were going mob,
Oh, that's right.
mob.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay,
And
yeah.
don't forget
Well,
about the radioactive Superman, who are technically like babies, right? Like he cloned and created these genetic
yes.
mutants. Like, yeah, the
Oh my
professor's
god.
not really a good person.
No, no. We just. I think my world shattered a little
Yeah,
bit just going through this. I don't
professor
like
doesn't
that.
care about animal rights, man. He just does. He's a senile old man. But in any case, even having Cubert ask him, the one experiment that he tends to treat with respect is Cubert.
Somewhat.
The one experiment that he respects.
I mean,
Um, yeah,
does he though? I mean,
he does. He
credit
does.
where credit's due for Hulu.
Mhm.
That Christmas episode they did, there was that fun kind of inter scenes where they showed all the different families having their own
Yeah, I
celebrations
know
and
what
stuff
you
like
did
that.
next
And
Christmas
there was
or Xmas. Yeah,
the Fries,
yeah,
Professor and Hubert and Fry having fun. That
yeah.
was cute and wonderful. So
Mhm.
I'll agree with you on that, but like I don't know because he just kind of tells them to shut up every so often.
Right.
I think in this episode, kind of thing just says a little more about their relationship than usual.
That's true, and I think he does care about him. But because as Hubert does ask the professor, like, "Oh, do I have a birthday?" He's like, "Well, you're a clone, so technically no. However, what we can do is because you are, 12 years old or whatever, we can choose a day that I, maybe scraped off a piece of my tissue or something, and that could be your, birth type of
Yeah,
thing,
there was two options, and
tissue
Hubert
scraping.
chose the
Yeah.
disgusting
Well,
scraped one.
it also turned out to be the week following, so he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm just going to choose the one that's like closest to now, so that I can have like a birthday as soon as possible." But wouldn't you know it, it also happens to be Dwight's actual birthday during that same time. So Cubert and Dwight are kind of, for lack of a better term, conceived around the same time, or appeared
Oh,
in the
you know
real
what?
world around
Yeah,
this time.
wouldn't that be sad that because how long has Hermes been working for the professor? Because if it's around Dwight's age,
Oh,
then the professor maybe got jealous or
yeah, it must
sad or lonely and said, "You know, I'm going to create a clone." And then for some reason, 12 years later,
be.
he was born.
This guy already made one. Yeah, that's right.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So just yeah, isn't that interesting?
it is interesting.
It's a weird headcanon there because instead of cloning within the same amount of time as a baby being born, it took him 12 years to do so.
And what was the reason for Cubert's nose is slightly squished up because he was against the tube for too long or something? Like he
Yeah,
squished his
yeah.
nose. Yeah, that's why he doesn't look exactly like the professor. Yeah, that's good. So, any case, they decide to go on this whole thing, and Dwight's birthday's all that time as well. So Hermes actually has the idea: why don't we have a birthday party that we can celebrate right here, and we can basically write it off as a business expense. Okay.
Yeah, I love that bureaucracy,
Yeah.
Hermes. God, I hate him. I like Hermes, but I don't
I
like
hate his
his
job. Yeah,
job
exactly.
and how he thinks and all that stuff.
I hate everything he chooses to be. Exactly.
Hmm.
So they're happy to do that. And then we get a call from,
Something's happening on
yeah,
TV.
I got a call from Bender. Something's going on TV again. So back on all my circuits. We're introduced, I think, in this episode. Again, we never see this character again because they kind of goes away. But this is Antonio Calculon Jr. Apparently, Calculon has an actual son, or somebody who's named after him, or something like this. But he plays his son on the TV show, and he
Oh,
bursts through in this episode, bursts through the ceiling, right? As Calculon and Renee, is that her name?
Monique.
Monique. Sorry, I don't know who Renee is. Yeah, Monique.
In the same world. That's in the same world, in my opinion. So
Yeah. So they're sitting in.
Monique and Renee.
So they're sitting in champagne. They're bathing in champagne or whatever. And Antonio, as soap operas, craziness tend to do. Not this craziness, I guess, but typical craziness. He bursts in through the glass ceiling, and he's in a parachute or whatever. He lands and he says something along the lines of like, "Mom, I've got Dad, whatever. I've got something to tell you about Mom that she's been hiding from you for years and years, and you're gonna have a wild case of amnesia." So it must still be the same episode. But as he's about to reveal it, Antonio goes crazy, and his whole system just kind of goes down. Exactly.
Either this acting is great or the suspension is just so crazy.
Exactly. And doing so basically causes the show to go down. We get a nice cameo of Sal showing up saying like, "Oh, he's busted it," or whatever it is. And the show goes on hiatus, right?
I do
Antonio
love
is gone.
he is go. I do love like whenever something like happens, like they put like a little like a
Yeah.
title screen up or something like that.
Yeah, we'll be
Like
right
in this one
back.
says,
Yeah.
"Oops, broken actor," and it has
Actor.
a robot that's like got
Yeah.
the eye popped out of missing a few fingers.
I do like
Smoking.
when they do those. I've never
Yeah.
actually seen that on TV. Never seen that because, like, even though they were filmed in front of a live studio audience, they were never actually like a live
No,
television
no,
program. So we never
no.
had that issue. But even
Yeah,
like
live
on news
live
networks and all that
television.
stuff, never had that. Never saw
Yeah, it
that.
was there's only like news stuff where they would do like and back to the station because something happened that like someone said something on TV they shouldn't have like a swear word or
But that's the thing. But
flipped something off.
I've never seen that. I've never seen something like that. So
You know
I don't
what?
know how
Well, because
often that actually happens.
I never really cared about the news then or even now. But like the thing is, it was on every so often. Like if you're like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I saw something like that where just like the reporter fell or something like that, so they just went back to the station. Like
Oh,
nothing, like crazy. It's just like,
sure.
oh crap, Linda fell. Let's just go back to the station while we check to see if
Yeah.
she's okay. That was a nice fall there, Linda. Yes, let's go
Oh,
back to
you know
weather.
what? You know what? I do recall one time because the weather was really bad. They were trying to get some like film footage of something that was going on, and it like knocked it out. And then they had said like, "Oh, I guess we've lost broadcast there or something. The weather must be that
Yeah,
bad."
like
Something like that. It was very
I'm
minor.
sure I've
Yeah.
seen something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
but I've
I'm
never
sure I have.
seen like, "Oh, we have technical difficulties." I've never seen that before. But any case, the following week, everyone is getting together and they're setting up a party, right, for Dwight and Cubert. Well, I guess it's technically for Cubert because I just kind of say tissue scraping day or something instead of
Growth
birthday.
day.
Yeah. And Dwight and Cubert are like, they're kind of pumped for it, but they realize that a lot of their friends, none of their friends are there. And I guess they don't really have any friends, unfortunately. They're not really very cool. But the
I'm
doorbell
kind of sick
rings.
of that trope though. Like every kid is just like too
Well,
weird to have
remember
to have
though, remember
friends.
the gift of hindsight. We know that Dwight and Cubert have many friends in the future. They have at
Yes, they
least
do.
4 or 5
Yeah,
friends
yeah.
in the future, so it's okay. They get along well. They're fine. So the doorbell rings, and maybe they all came together as a group or something. But it turns out that the door only has Tinny Tim. We actually get to see Tinny Tim again after
Tinny Tim,
Jesus. I
not
don't even
Tiny
remember the
Tim.
last episode that we actually saw
Tinny
Tinny Tim.
Tim.
But yeah, basically, the small robot with the little, oh, what is that called? Little crutch or whatever. And his one little peg leg and everything. He speaks with like a nice little, British accent that's so sweet and everything.
What's that? Charles Dickinson? Yeah,
Charles
Charles
Dickens type of thing.
Dickinson.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Hence
The
the
last
Tiny
time we
Tim, right? Tiny
saw
Tim.
him
Yeah, yeah.
would have been Less Than Hero, so not too long ago.
We saw him. When's the last time we saw him or heard him speak?
I don't know. It usually just says cameo, like, if it's in there. But he was in Less Than Hero, so I'm sure he was probably one of the museum patrons or something like that. He was just
Maybe.
there.
When's the last time we heard him, though? I don't know. But in any case, it's nice to
Eh,
hear Tinny Tim again, right?
he's alive.
So this makes, Dwight and Cubert even more upset because, of course, none of their friends showed up, and Tinny Tim only got it because somebody threw it in his like hat or something, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll go to this party anyway." So that's kind of fun. But in any case, later at the party, while talking and sitting around and all this kind of fun stuff, but the kids aren't doing anything fun, but the grown-ups are all talking, I guess. Bender runs back into the room and he's carrying the television because nobody has flat screens 1,000 years in the future. They all have those tube TVs again.
Oh God, those things are so freaking
They're so
heavy.
heavy. So he
Oh my
runs in,
God.
puts it on puts the TV on the table, saying, there's something else we need to see on TV again, and he plugs it into his ass as he does, and it turns on,
I
and it
didn't
turns out to
understand.
be Linda and Morbo for their news, and for what's going on. Morbo and Linda have a show that's dedicated to invasion and entertainment tonight. So Morbo talks about his people invading Earth, and they're being prepared to do so. And then she kind of talks about the entertainment system going on in like Hollywood. Now we skip over a little bit with the whole invasion thing, but the entertainment says that they're now going to do an open cast call because of his breakdown for a new child actor in All My Circuits, somebody to replace Antonio. So Bender, you know, we are led to believe at first he's like thinking maybe Tinny Tim, hence why Tinny Tim is actually in this episode to do so. But it turns out Bender wants the role for himself because he's just that selfish.
I do love that. Tinny Tim, are you thinking what I'm thinking? What, sir?
I,
I could be
I'm
the
perfect for that
actor.
role.
You're
Yeah.
perfect. Oh, you
You
raised my
dashed
hopes
my dreams.
and dashed my dreams.
Yeah.
Good job, sir.
You raised and dashed my dreams quite thoroughly, sir. Yeah, that's really, really good.
I do like that. Yeah.
So, in Hollywood, okay, at the studio, there are many child actors. Okay, a lot of like it's a very big open cast. Obviously, like this is a huge role for a lot of child actors. We get a fun. I think it's a Macaulay Culkin callback or whatever because he's basically a robot. I think he's called Macaulay Culkin or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's basically the screaming face of
From Home
what was
Alone.
his from Home
Home
Alone?
Alone.
What's the character's name? Do you remember his character's name?
Kevin McAllister. Is that
Well
what it
done.
was?
Yeah, it's Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So
Well,
Kevin.
it's one of our family things to do. Watch those two every Christmas. So
Oh, there you go.
it's
Okay.
it's in our
It's in your
lexicon
You're right.
of
I was going to
movies.
say, like, wow, you got that really quickly.
Oh
out of
yeah. Oh,
out of all the
dude,
actors, I'm like, oh,
we
what's
love
that
that
one?
one.
What's that one, Mitchell? And you're like, oh, let me look
Oh,
that up. Yeah, but no, this is good. You got this
bald
one.
head. He
Yeah,
was in like 17 movies.
yeah,
No, I know this one.
yeah. But this one, you're like, oh, Kevin McAllister. So that's good. So yes, a Kevin McAllister, right? Macaulay Culkin kind of thing. So he's like screaming, his hands don't move or whatever, but he still like speaks normally or whatever. That's just the robot design. And there's a few other ones here and there. So they call in the first one or whatever. We see a couple of in there, but every time the child acting unit robots or whatever are doing their lines, and they're doing them pretty well in front of Calculon and the casting director, we keep on hearing Bender boo. He keeps on booing
Like,
them from behind the door. He doesn't like
yeah.
them, or he doesn't care about
Boo!
them.
Not
He
as
just
good
wants
as
them away.
Bender.
Not as good as
Boo!
Bender. And this keeps on
Sorry.
influencing Calculon not to choose them. So they end up going through 90 actors, And Calculon states something around the lines of like, "Oh man, I really wish I could have heard this Bender. Like, apparently everybody loves this Bender." And the casting director realizes like, well, there is a Bender, but he's far too old to be a child actor, so like we didn't really want to bring him in. And then Calculon's like, "No, bring him in. We got to check this out." Now they bring in Bender for the audition. This is probably one of the funniest scenes of this. So we all know that Bender is technically Mexican, right? He's put together in Mexico and everything. And he kind of alludes to this by saying like he has a flawless Spanish accent and he can speak Spanish. So he does this line, and apparently it's something to do with bandinos or something. In like, it's what is it? Calculon's fourth evil twin or something, like whatever it is. And his name is
Yeah.
Sneezy Martinez. Okay, so Martinez, of course, being like a Spanish name, so they have to have like a Spanish, even though the child actors weren't saying anything about being Spanish. But in any case, Bender tries to impress them with his Spanish and everything, and it turns out to be horrible. Everything about what he says and how he says it.
Explains it to me a
Oh,
guacamole. Like basically what I'm doing was just as bad as what
that
he was
was
doing.
that was a very good impression, Mitchell. It was
Yep.
so
Yep.
good.
Yep.
It was
And that's as good as that accent gets for me.
it was so it was
See.
Mitchell. It was so bad you gave me cancer. So Calculon throws him, or is about to throw him out, but then he hears Fry and Leela,
Who
yay,
came to the
we like
audition with him.
Bender. Yeah, exactly. They came to the audition with Bender. So they're behind the door now calling out, like, Bender, yeah, he's the best. You should get Bender. And this completely changes Calculon's mind. He says, okay, you got
Welcome
the job.
aboard.
Yeah. So Bender gets to be on all my circuits after all this time. Okay.
As Calculon's son.
Indeed, as Calculon's son. And this is another one. He says, Fathero. It's so
Fathero. Yeah,
Fathero.
Fathero.
Oh my god.
So now it transitions to the next scene where they're actually like at the studio and they're
Yes.
starting to film it. There's
Yep.
a little thing here that says it. I've never had to deal with this because I've always just been at a studio making stuff, never been at like an
Not
actual
filming
studio.
the stuff, right?
So yeah, so like they have those like red lights, and right next to it is taping in progress. All is welcome. Writers keep out.
Yes.
I did like that
I
because
like that as well, because writers will
back
change.
then,
Yeah.
writers are changing, and nowadays writers suck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're just not as good as they used to be for some reason.
No, or too expensive, so they don't hire those ones.
Yeah, the good ones are too expensive, and they know that they're worth the money, so they don't hire them, and they go for these just out of school people who have like one or two little things under their belt, and then they want to try and put their own message into it, and then we have issues. That's usually what it is.
Usually.
But we digress. Bender is on set. He's there for the first time, and unfortunately, as Bender wanted to be like pizzazz and all this kind of stuff, it's his first acting gig technically. The character that he's supposed to play has been rewritten to basically be in a coma. So he's not going to be acting whatsoever. That's the whole thing. Bender
I do
obviously
like,
is not happy about this, but
yeah, I do like
just
those little
have to
words
deal.
he says here. He's like,
Yeah.
stupid coma, could have been British.
Could have been British.
So-
Yeah. He's like, oh, do I have to have a British accent now? And he's like, no, you're in a coma. So Bender lies in the bed in the hospital or whatever, and Calculon starts doing his lines, all this stuff, and Bender's like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to be in a coma. And he gets up. Bender gets up and he starts dancing and he starts like smoking and like I think he's drinking as well. He's just doing a whole bunch of all these things, and he says his catchphrase, "Bite my shiny metal ass." Fantastic. Finally, like, well, not finally. We hear it all the time, but on TV, everybody now who's watching the show will hear it. And wouldn't you know it, the director will come over and say, like, okay, I guess we have to do another take because you're not supposed to be doing anything. But due to Calculon, who never does two takes, and I believe this has been established in previous episodes with Calculon, he says, nope, we only do one take. I'm going to be in my trailer. And therefore, Bender becomes part of the show. Yeah, I think this is probably one of the most meta things out there, right? Like Bender being Bender on TV. He's based. Oh, doesn't he say something along the lines like, "Hey, it's Antonio, but you can call me Bender." Something
Yeah,
like
he
that,
does.
right?
He does say that. Yeah.
So, now later in I guess this is the editing room.
Yep.
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 So in the editing room, the director, Calculon, and Bender, they're all going through some of the footage or whatever, and Calculon obviously does not like this. He's quite upset with it and all this kind of stuff, and he demands that Bender be fired. Okay. However, as he does so, we get a call saying that the Execubots are going to be entering this particular production unit. So the execubots are basically executives, right? People who are in charge of the money and making sure everything goes the way that makes them the most money, obviously. And the president of the network, okay, are all going to be appearing in their room, and they're going to be talking about it. So we are introduced to, and we see these guys a couple of times throughout the show, I think, as well, like in the future. We have
I'll say yes.
no, we definitely do, because I remember their voices coming back and forth from it. So I remember we have executive bot Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Okay,
Yeah.
what is it? Alpha is there to talk about what he likes from the old days or something. Like he
Hey, hey, hey.
likes the old stuff or whatever. Beta predicts the
Yeah.
fall schedule, and
No.
Gamma,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, with dice though, with
with dice.
dice.
That's right. He throws dice, and he's like, whatever it is, like game shows are back or reality shows are in, whatever. And Gamma is in charge of underestimating Middle America. So I
Yeah.
guess there's how do we appease the people in the center of the country rather than on the outskirts on the coast as the United States was doing, right?
So we do see all these guys back in Calculon 2.0. That's
Mhm.
when he's brought back, right? Or is that
Yep,
when he dies?
I believe that's when he's brought back. Yeah,
Okay. And then just the first two, so not Gamma. We see Alpha and Beta in the audience. So they took out the lady for the robot for some reason in
oh,
the audience.
interesting.
Yeah.
And then we're also introduced to the president of the network, who at first were believed to be some guy walking in carrying a laptop or whatever. Looks kind of mean, but he actually puts the computer down, opens it up, and the president happens to be said laptop. I believe he's played by Billy West.
Yep.
Sounds very similar to Billy West.
Yep.
So yeah, like I said,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna guess. I'm always gonna guess Billy West
yeah,
first.
like you
Yeah,
got about an 80% chance to be right
it's
because like
probably him.
John DiMaggio has a very distinct voice. Phil
Yes.
Lamar is a little harder to get sometimes,
Mhm.
and Maurice LaMarche generally does the big monstery voices.
That's
So
true, and I think it's either between Billy West or David Herman that I tend to get mixed up, because
yes, those
those
are your
two
two
are the
big.
ones
Yeah,
that can kind of mix up their voices quite well. That you're not sure who it is.
probably 1 in 4, 1 in 4 episodes that we've watched, you mix them up. So
That's true.
because
That's
you're just
true.
like it was Billy West, I'm like no, it was David Herman. You're like
Damn
come
it!
on, and then
Exactly.
you're like, was it David Herman? You're like yes, it was. Like oh yeah, I got that one
Yes.
right.
Fantastic. So they're all in there. They're pleading their case. They're saying like, no, no, listen, President, like, because the president obviously he says like, who would put this trash on my network? And they're like, okay, we're about to fire him. We don't want him on there either. And he says, no, no, we want Bender on here. We've checked up with our ratings. It's 90% increase. Bite My Shiny Metal cast is like super, super popular. We love the drinking. We love all the filth, and we love the filthy money that it makes us. Okay. So the president and his executive bots are totally in for Bender here. And he says, like, Bender, we need you to continue being, as bad as you are on TV. Do you think you can handle that? And Bender says, oh, I probably can. So we get a nice montage of Bender being Bender, okay, on the show, making people annoyed and getting more famous. He's on covers of things. He's like basically taking over the show. Like All My Circuits is now basically focused on Bender, which of course is pissing off more and more people, especially Calculon. Okay. But the main thing, and this is like where it becomes really meta for the real world, is that it's starting to really get children imitating him. Because as Calculon had mentioned to the president, that All My Circuits is apparently a kids show, despite the fact that it has like sleeping around and amnesia and guns and all these kinds of things. But whatever. Apparently, it's watched by the family. But Bender is making it even worse, and so therefore, children are now starting to see Bender and they want to imitate him. Thus, bringing us back to Kubert and Dwight. So they're saying that they want to be, despite the fact they've known Bender for a long time at this point, but they want to act like Bender and be like Bender. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of, what would you say, kind of makes a problem for the professor and Hermes. Okay. Because Dwight
Well,
and
especially
Kubert, yeah,
yeah.
was Dwight and Kubert start acting out and doing things. So what does Dwight do? Dwight steals a quote unquote cigar from his dad. He smokes it, but he gets sick
That's
right
not a
away.
cigar.
It's technically not a cigar. And then I love how the Hermes puts it lit in his jacket, and his jacket starts to smoke. So like it's on fire, but he doesn't really care.
Maybe.
And
Oh
then
yeah, it does start smoking. Yep.
yeah, it
Yep. There
starts
it is.
smoking in
Yep.
his jacket. Yep. And then Kubert says like, "Bite my shiny metal ass," which the professor's like, "What the hell? Like that wouldn't be pleasant for either of us." So they are clearly not impressed by this, and they decide to. Well, I guess I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. They do leave because Bender's not really a good role model. But as they're watching all my circuits, the news, right, is talking about how a new protesting group has started up. Okay. And this protesting group, which has been created by Hermes and the Professor, which is
Yep.
called
What's it
Fathers
called, Anthony?
Against Fathers Against Rude Television. All right.
What's the short for that?
Oh, the FART, obviously.
No, not us farters.
So yes, the fart protest group begins. All right, and yeah, everybody kind of debating whether or not this is actually necessary. So Hermes and the professor are in the camp of like, since they're the parents of their kids, right? They should be able to kind of control, or not control, but like kind of influence what they're watching to an extent, or control a little bit of what they're watching. Leela and Fry are kind of in the camp of like, well, even if Bender is on TV, it's not like that makes children bad. Okay.
Mhm.
So this debate has been going on for a long time. And this is kind of what makes it it's a very smart written episode, honestly, for this reason. So that night, Dwight and Cubert and Tinny Tim, okay, they're sitting on the roof and they're talking about how like their parents are so uncool and how they want to be cool, but every time they do cool things, they like basically get sick. So funny enough, Tinny Tim actually suggests, oh, why don't we go and do the coolest of crimes, a burglary? That way Bender will be really, really impressed with us. And they're like, oh yeah, we should also let's rob Bender. So
TV gave us the
idea.
idea.
And then
And
we have
then
a
they
nice,
do have
yeah,
a little
yeah.
what is this called? I don't know, like just a little bit like, hey guys, this is
So
Futurama. You shouldn't commit crime,
yeah,
kind of thing. Cool crime
we
of
do not
burglary.
condone the act of committing cool crimes like burglary or something, right? Brought to you by Futurama. It has like the logo of Futurama, so it's definitely like, it's supposed to be the fourth wall breaking kind of thing. So I love this as well. So Dwight Cubert and Tinny Tim go to Robot Arms Apartments, right, where Fry and Bender live. Bender's not there. Fry is there, and he's playing video games and like reading a comic or whatever, and all this kind of stuff. And he's underwear, like he doesn't know anything that's going on. But the three kids are all wearing these really crude masks of Bender. And
Like
they just,
cardboard. They made them themselves, kind of thing.
exactly.
Like the eyes don't line up and everything. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. And Fry is just like, every time they walk by him, he just says, hey, Bender. Hey, Bender. Hey, Bender. And then when the phone rings and it actually is Bender and he says, oh, hey, Bender, like he just doesn't realize that the three of them are there. So I think that's pretty funny. So in any case, the kids steal all these items. I think, what is it? They get like a lava lamp. I think they get his safe. And I mentioned the safe because it'll come out in a little bit as well.
And like a
I think
chair.
his table and chairs or something, a box of Bender's like pornography. um
Well, we only see them carry out one thing each, but they
yeah,
have a party next. Like
that's right.
and
Well,
a whole
later
bunch of
we
kids
see,
show up.
well, they do see, we see like a bunch of these boxes, and I think I can't remember which one of
So
them it is, but somebody is carrying the safe.
yeah,
Yeah,
they went back and picked up more stuff basically.
must have,
Rather
yes.
than the three that we saw, they picked up more stuff, and yeah, so they're at a part. They make a party now. All of a sudden, more people come, right?
Okay, so I was actually going to talk about this. So yes, they have this party, and they invited their bully.
Yep. The oh,
Bob,
I can't remember
Brett,
what his name
Brett
is.
Blob.
Oh, Brett Blob. Yeah,
Brett
humongous
Blob. So they,
Blob's son.
yeah, the Blob's son. So they invited him over. I guess they're cool now after all that the past issues. But also they invited the orphanarium orphans over because I guess those are the only children models they really wanted to make or
Yes, yeah,
something,
yeah.
right?
I would say out of all the
Yeah,
models that they've had, like character sheets and stuff like that, they only had those
just the
kids. So
orphanarium orphans.
yeah.
So,
So
so Dwight and Cubert are still not very cool. They've just invited a bunch of like these kids that they just happen to have access to. I guess who knows. Anyways, a whole bunch of
that one's on
kids.
the production side. I'm pretty
Sure.
sure if we actually look at the crowd, there's a few kids that we haven't seen before. So
Yes, yes, and that's perfectly fine. So the point is, there's a big party going on. Like all these kids are running around. They're all like, feeling like they're super cool. I think they're also trying like Bender. I think he has a box of cigars and everything as well. So they're
yeah,
trying that.
Zubin
Zubin
cigars.
cigars,
Tiny Tim finds his robot
the
porn.
robot pornography, and his, yeah, that's always funny. So as they're doing this and they're dancing and music's playing, all this stuff, Hermes and the professor re-enter. And of course, the music goes like, right, just shuts off totally as they get inside. They're like, what is going on here? Like, what happens and what's happening? And you have, Hubert and Dwight's like, oh, we just invited some friends over, nothing crazy. And like, wait a minute, you don't have friends. Where'd you get all this stuff? Like, where's all this cool stuff? And then, which is why I mentioned it earlier, the safe that they had stolen from Bender's apartment happens to have Bender in it. So somehow they carried the safe with Bender in it all the way to the Planet Express headquarters. Bender rolls out of his safe and says, like, oh, what are we doing here? Oh, cool. You guys having a party, all this fun stuff. He's like, yeah, and these kids stole all this stuff. Bender's actually pretty okay with it until he realizes that it's his stuff. So he realizes, I should not be allowed on TV. I'm going to put a stop to this. And so he joins FART. He joins the Fathers Against Root Television. He makes a big speech the next morning with a bunch of other people who are, I guess, are also fathers. We see a cameo of the Dawn Bot. Okay, I don't think
Which
we've really seen
yeah, there was a
it as
goof.
a kid, but
There
yeah,
was a
go for it.
goof because later when they go to the studio, he disappears. He's not seeing the crowd anymore. But I will say
Oh,
this also.
but he does get off the ship in Hollywood, though.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
he's
Yeah,
not at the
we
studio.
all we also see the veterinarian that got kicked in the head by a gazelle.
Oh,
We
yeah,
see
yep,
him too, which is
yep,
like, oh, so he has a kid. We also see what was their weird
yep.
like
The
ant aliens,
Signoids or whatever. Yep, the people
Zignoids.
across the
Yeah,
street
yeah,
that own the pizza place. Yep, exactly. We
yeah.
see
We
the
also
father.
see
He
huge
had
Atlas
kids. Yep.
blob. Yeah, yeah. We see
Yeah,
the
and
blob guy as well.
Blob
So
guy. Yeah, because obviously Brett was in it as well. So like none of these guys really speak, but they're there. We get to see them. So in any case, this huge mob of fathers, right? They take to the skies. They fly to Hollywood. Bender lets them in because obviously he's still on all my circuits. So the security guard lets them all in anyway, and they storm
yep,
through.
this mob's with me.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, go ahead. So they get to the studio building where All My Circuits is filmed, obviously, and they break in. Calculon's doing some kind of scene with Boxy and a female Boxy or something, and so Bender breaks in and he says, like, listen, no more. We don't. I should not be on television anymore. People are imitating me, and I don't want this kind of thing. Like, it's not a good thing. But the president of the network is also there, and he says, no, Bender, you are going to be here. You are going to finish your scene, and I'm going to make sure you do. And he has a gun. Like, so the president is a computer, like I said, but his disk drive pops up. There's
Very
extra disk
dated. That's a
drive,
very
very
dated.
dated. And they put a handgun into the disk drive, like into the disk
Then they
drive there.
plug it. Yeah. Then they plug it in also. Yeah.
So they put that there. But the professor, who's also there, obviously because it's his organization, has a laser gun, and he says, "No, Bender, you're not going to do the scene." And so there are two guns on Bender right now, telling him to do the opposite. Right. So, camera's filming. Everybody's seeing this. Bender grabs both guns and says, "Listen." It's not about what you watch on TV. As parents, you should be more in control of what your kids are watching. You should be able to say, like, hey, maybe you can just turn off the TV. Maybe you guys can talk to each other. He does say you can try hitting them, stuff like
Yeah.
this.
Have you ever
You know,
tried just turning off the
TV
TV
and
and
hitting
hitting
them.
them? Yeah.
And then Hermes says, oh, but we're just so busy.
We'll try. Tough.
Yeah,
We'll try.
make time and all this stuff, right? So Bender finishes off his monologue. Everybody's done with it, and he is essentially done with All My Circuits. Okay. And we finish off the episode with all of them being back in the HQ, watching All My Circuits after all this kind of happened. Because I guess they're rewatching that episode, right, with Bender
Yeah.
with the two guns.
Yeah. Obviously, it gets recorded. Then they got
Right.
to edit it,
Put it in
and
there,
then
right? And
show on
Calculon,
TV.
and Calculon had said, like, yeah, just splice me in there with a few of my headshots being surprised and put it on TV. And it's like him sitting on the beach, but they were never on a beach scene or something.
Yeah, because it
You know,
still shows Bender in
yeah,
like the hospital place or whatever they were
exactly,
filming.
exactly. So at the very end, then they finish off with like, well, you know what? Maybe sometimes we could just, turn off the TV. We don't need to watch it. And the professor says, yeah, maybe we could do that unless there's something good on. Fry says, well, there's not much good on anyway. And the professor says, oh, we'll just keep watching. Maybe something will come up. And that kind of negates the whole message. But that is, that's the episode. So Bender should not be allowed on TV. I think overall the message is there. Like, parents should be a little bit more understanding of what's going on around them, what their kids are doing. So they should be able to kind of have that more support for what's going on, right? Don't let them watch certain things if it's not appropriate for them.
Oh yeah, you need to do a lot of research for that.
Yeah, that's funny
It's
though.
very
It's
easy
funny.
for kids to go on YouTube and look up stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah,
even watching TV, which is like who pays for cable anymore? But still, they can flip through the channels and look at something
yeah. And most of
not
the time,
age
it's not going to be
appropriate.
like that, right? So
No,
yeah.
God, no.
So, any case, back to the episode, I guess. Yeah. Any opening thoughts with this?
Oh,
like I was saying at the beginning. I think this is actually quite good. I'd say this is going to be my verdict. This is the second best of the Bender trilogy. So I'd
well,
say,
there's one more thing we forgot to
yeah,
mention about the episode.
yeah. Go for
During
it.
the credits, there's another like
Oh, they do like
kind of
a
different.
song. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
another thing,
Yeah,
and all it is just John DiMaggio and Billy West just kind of being their characters,
Leela's in it
having
too.
fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
Leela's in
Leela?
it too.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, right, she is,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so
They're all singing this
Futurama.
song. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
So
a very interesting way to look at it. They were probably just having fun,
near the end
because
of their time. Yep, they knew.
yeah, I have no idea when they recorded this. This could literally have been the last one they recorded,
Mhm,
because from understanding how it works, they never really do chronological kind of
mhm.
thing. They don't start with episode 1, go to 5 kind of thing, right? This could have been literally the last one they did. So let's just have some fun, guys. Let's all get together and have
Yeah.
fun,
Well,
which
no,
is
this
why
was
the
wasn't this
opening was
one.
also different.
Well, this was from season 4, though, wasn't it? The production
I
time was
don't
supposed to
know.
be in
Like
season 4, so I think this was.
production
Yeah,
order could still
yeah.
be different from how it's recorded, right?
Sure,
Because
sure.
you got to do all the animation and stuff like that too, right? Like, I don't know where in there is like, okay, we're doing this one, okay, boom, done. This one, boom, done.
Mhm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but either way, maybe they were all in the same recording studio and they all just decided to have fun.
Oh, totally.
So, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna put
And
that
maybe
in
for
the
such a meta episode, they're just like, "Oh, yeah, let's just go all
or
out. We
that.
wanna do
That's
this,"
also a
right?
good one.
Because we have so many inside jokes that if people don't understand what's going on, that, they just wanna have fun with it, right? So, yeah, you have the beatboxing intro, you have the song at the end for the outro, right, for the credits. I do like the, Futurama, like, "We do not condone the cool crime of robbery," or whatever it is. I thought that was pretty good.
That is pretty nice, yeah.
Um, what else was it? Like, "Oh, I should not be on television. Bender should not be on television. So stop shoving me down my throat," or whatever he says.
Yeah.
Um,
But
there's
yes,
another.
the
Oh,
episode itself, I did like it. It's a good
yes,
one.
and we
But you
do.
are right. The 3 benders in a row is a lot.
It's a lot, but we also do have. There's also a. We didn't really mention. There's a sneaky cameo of the Hypnotoad. Right.
Yes,
So when
at the
when
end
the
here during
robots when Antonio goes berserk or whatever, and it's like, there's a broken actor or whatever the thing is, then the Hypnotoad comes on. But Fry says something that's kind of interesting, right? He says, "Oh, this show has been going downhill since season 3." So I think that's a meta joke on Futurama in itself as well. So it's kind of an
Well,
interesting thing. Yeah.
I did click on Hypnotone. I did read it very briefly, and one of the things is here when Fry says that he
Mhm.
doesn't love Hypnotoad, but everyone's supposed to like Hypnotoad. Why? Because he's hypnotizing them. But what does
Yeah.
Fry not have?
I don't think hypnotizing is the same as the controlling their minds, though. That's a different thing.
Well, we don't know, but the thing is, that's why Fry doesn't like it, because it's not affecting him the same way, so he doesn't like it. That was a little
Okay.
headcanon someone had put down. I'm like, oh,
Oh,
that's
didn't
very
they?
interesting,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah,
And
I
we
guess
never
so.
did
Yeah.
see Frank from the temp episode try and mind control him, did we?
Um, well, because he took over him. He left
Yeah,
him.
but
Yeah,
no,
of course. Yeah,
I'm
no.
saying maybe it doesn't
Yeah.
affect Fry because of his
Um,
brain thing.
but what about the brain slug though? That did work on Fry up until it starved.
Poor guy, starved to death.
But that was probably because of the lack of the delta brainwave as well, right? Because he starved to
Uh,
death.
oh
So
yeah,
yeah, it
they should do
works.
more with that. They should
They
do more
should. They
with that.
really should. Yeah. No,
Too smart.
well, they did with the fourth movie as well, right? But any case, your favorite joke, favorite scene, MVP for the episode.
Okay, so MVP will probably just have to be Bender because he's just a part of it. Like I do like him more at the beginning than kind of the middle and end, because the whole thing was just like, I want to be on TV. Like he crushes Tinny Tim's dreams,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
the whole like, yeah, because you're acting, we're gonna put you in a coma, and I do like the stupid coma. Could have been British.
Could
I
have
do
been
like
British.
that. And then the hey guys, my name's Antonio, but you can call me Bender. I do like that, and then just
Sure.
Bender being Bender.
Mhm.
But during the party, the second party, the one where all the people show up for Dwight and Hubert, I
Mhm.
do love Zoidberg just being like, "Hey guys," and like, "What are you doing here? This is I'm just marketing myself.
You're right.
Because,
Oh, that's right. He's marketing himself with the kids. That's
yeah,
right. Here's my card. He pulls out like this giant piece of
this giant
cardboard
piece
with
of
his
cardboard
name
just
on
says Dr. Zoidberg on it. And then when the professor and
it.
Hermes
Hermes
kick out
kicks.
all the kids, he's like, "So what are you guys up to? I'm free."
I'm
Kind
free
of
for whatever.
which which I do like that joke because
That's
that's all we really see of Zoidberg this episode.
that's literally it. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I do like so
yeah.
I like that
Yeah.
because it's just oh yeah, oh sorry. And so when the professor has his coolometer out
Oh,
to
the mega
measure the level of
Fonzies. Yeah,
coolness,
that
it
was
goes
cool.
over all the kids where you can see their models and stuff like that. And yeah, I think 90% of them are orphanarium kids who
Yeah.
don't have speaking roles,
Everybody
but
but
you do
Brett.
see them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it goes over Zoidberg and it falls down to 0,
Yeah.
and then it goes back to other kids and it goes back up a little bit,
Yeah.
and then it goes back to his kids. It's like ding-ding-ding-ding-ding-ding.
Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah,
and a big thumb sticks up.
yeah,
Or
big
whatever.
thumb pops
Yeah.
out.
And yeah, and another dated reference because of course people who watch the episode nowadays have never seen Happy Days, right? They would be like, "Oh, what's a Fonzie? Like what's a
Oh
mega
yeah.
Fonzie?" So it
Oh,
calls him a
who's the actor who did Fonzie?
Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler, who was
Winkler, yeah.
also the lawyer in Arrested Development.
Which I did, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, he's around for a little while, but yeah, Henry Winkler is the Fonz, right? He was Arthur Fonzarelli, and so they called him Mega Fonz or the Fonz, right?
He
And
was
so
the coolest
he was
character in that
the
show, and that
cool
was
guy,
kind of
yeah,
super cool for a long
yeah,
time. Even
the
like the
cool
name,
guy in the
like
1950s with his leather jacket and his slick back hair.
not that long ago, but yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it was pretty much the 50s or 60s. Yeah, that's when it took place.
Oh
But
yeah, okay, yeah. The TV show
yeah,
world took place in the 50s. Okay,
yeah,
but it was probably made in the 70s.
may have something like that. Yeah, maybe even earlier actually. But yeah, whatever the case, I'm gonna go Calculon.
For
My
yours?
my MVP is Calculon, just because like one of my favorite lines, if not my favorite line of the episode, is literally like when Bender does his like Spanish accent thing, and then Calculon goes, "That was so bad, I think you gave me cancer." Like that's probably one of the best lines I've heard. And then yeah, him just his amnesia thing. Like I love Calculon, his overacting and everything, and that he's oh, and in the dressing room or when he's when they're watching the footage of Bender's like when his first time, and he's like, I don't even remember watching this footage, and Bender's like stealing from his dressing
I don't remember filming this. Oh, that's a security camera.
from your
Oh,
he's stealing my show and my stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say he was my favorite. And those are probably my favorite jokes. I do like the montage of all the, celebrity things and all the stuff that Bender's doing. And I do like the real world stuff about how there was like a Mothers Against like the bad television, right? Or
oh, there was
against all
Mothers
this stuff,
Against
right?
Everything
There is Mothers
in the
Against
90s
everything.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like Dungeons and Dragons, that was considered satanic crap back then.
Sure,
Stuff
exactly.
like that.
Wearing
And
black gloves was considered at one point to be part of like
uh,
a demonic thing.
I'm pretty sure everyone's mother didn't like that one little phase. I'm sure we all went through, whether it was like painting yourself white and being goth, which Anthony, that totally happened to you, right?
Oh, totally. That was like
Oh,
my
totally.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that one
God,
dream
yeah.
I had.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just yeah, I'm pretty sure we all had that like rebel things like, oh Mitchell,
Yeah.
why are you wearing that t-shirt? It's like I like it. It has a banana on it. It's funny.
That's not a rebellious thing, Michelle.
No, I know,
Like,
I know. That's how sadly the rebellious I was. Just I
that
liked
is
a
pretty
certain hoodie
sad.
she didn't
Yeah.
like.
Geez, you
I
didn't
think.
break anything. You didn't throw stuff. You didn't steal things. Like you're a pretty tame kid. I would
I was,
say,
yeah.
yeah.
I never saw the point, I guess would be the thing. I never saw the point of that.
Yeah. Whereas, like the kids who do act out and all this kind of stuff, they need that outlet, and seeing things on TV maybe gives them that ability to do so. But I wouldn't say it's the cause for it. That's a whole thing.
No.
So
It could be like a reference, or what's what I'm looking for here. Just a thing like, well, this happened here, so maybe I could do that. It's not necessarily like the
inspiration.
cause.
Yeah.
Inspiration. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's not the
Inspiration,
cause of the
bro.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like the whole debate of that video games cause violence.
Yeah,
They have
which has been
disproven
proven
that
to be not
multiple
true.
times
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And just your kid's a psychopath. It's your fault. Deal with it, kind
Yeah.
of, right?
Well, most of the time it's because the children, when it comes to video games and television, like inspiring, very bad behavior, it's typically because the children have such a bad lifestyle at home that
Yeah.
they have to act out in a certain way, and then they just take
You
influence from that.
just
That's
got
a
to give your
whole
kids
other thing.
attention. You
Yeah.
just got to give your kids
We have
attention,
to give them the
positive
right,
attention.
exactly, the
Positive
right
attention.
kind of attention. Exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, it doesn't always have to be positive kind of thing, right? Like, hey, you broke
Sometimes they need
this.
discipline. Sometimes they need
You're
discipline.
gonna clean it up. I'm gonna help you clean up the broken window that you smashed by accident.
Yeah.
It's an
Or I'm
accident.
going to
but you still
watch
gotta-
you clean this up, and you're going to do it
Yeah,
right
yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
right?
just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
But yeah, any closing remarks then for the episode?
Um, I like the Hypnotoad
Yeah.
at the end there.
So
That's really about it.
would you say this is the okay? Bender trilogy is over. What was your
Okay.
what's your order then? So I'm
Oh,
first,
jeez.
third, second. That's how I'd rate these ones.
That's a tough one because like
Mhm.
I don't know. They're not all terrible or all great.
Mhm.
But if I had to put it, what was the one with the bender, the wooden bender one called again? Absolutely,
Absolutely fabulous. Yeah,
absolutely fabulous. I think I like that
absolutely
one better.
fabulous. Yeah,
And then
you like that one better than this one?
yeah,
Okay.
not by much. Like mind you, like I'd rate them all more or less the same. They're interchangeable to me. Kind of
Oh,
thing
okay.
that like a story. I'm going to go by story wise. I'm going to say that I like the absolutely fabulous. Then Bender should not be allowed on TV, and
Oh,
then Bend Her. Bend Her was very funny
interesting. You go
and stuff like that.
backwards to mine.
Yeah, I
That's
know, I
interesting.
know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like
I,
that.
I
Yeah.
like the jokes in Bend Her, especially the like the at the wedding there. That
Mhm.
was really funny.
Yeah.
But I don't really care too much about the overall story for that one
Oh, okay.
compared to these other two.
Okay. Whereas I thought that story was like, aside from the fact that we don't get to see Hermes do more of his limbo stuff,
Yes,
but
yes,
I
yeah,
did like Bend Her for like the sake of everything on that in that episode. I thought that one was really good. I don't know. Bender should not be allowed on TV. I think is smart, but I don't think it's that funny. There's a few little jokes that I mentioned with like Calculus and everything that I do think are pretty funny. But
yeah.
absolutely
That's
fabulous
why
is
I'm saying
just
they're
kind
all
of
interchangeable.
yeah, absolutely fabulous. Again, written well enough that it's a kind of an interesting idea with like the total recall and everything, but it's not that funny, and the story
I
doesn't
don't
really
know.
matter in the
The
end,
robot
right? So
island was pretty funny. Oh God, I want to live.
yeah, no, it is funny. It's like your mother, like it is
What?
funny. It's
Your
just
mother?
yeah, it is funny, but it's just it doesn't really add anything in the end, right? So
I mean, yeah. I guess when you think about that
because
too,
it's the
like
upgrade, right?
anything that
So
happened
yeah,
was all
but
in his mind, kind of thing, right?
exactly, yeah.
So
So
you are right about
okay,
that,
yeah,
but I still like the jokes.
fair enough, and that's perfectly fine. But
Curse you,
yeah,
merciful Poseidon.
Poseidon. So I guess that's where we'll finish it off here. So yeah, thanks again, man, for joining me for the episode, and we'll see everybody next time for episode 16 of season 5, the series finale of the Fox Run.
The
The
first
devil's
series
yeah,
finale.
the devil's hands are idle playthings. All right, and we get to see our robot devil again. So thanks again, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, next time. Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.